Do you hear that? Here, hold on. Let me just remake the sound. That's called a 5-finger slap in the mouth to "Do you bloody well condemn hummus?" Piers Morgan getting schooled by George Galloway. I mean, it was a massacre. The other three guests there, they looked like little kids, like, "Mommy and Daddy, please stop fighting." And, one of those little kids was everybody's favorite. Jimmy Dore's biggest fan, Sammy Boy Cedar. Hey, 10 out of 10. Hey, this is why I love doing this show. And this is why I've been doing this now for 8 years. Hard Lens Media, some great stuff all around. Piers Morgan getting owned in real time. I mean, I don't know who smacked Piers Morgan around harder, Bassem Youssef or George Galloway. I'll let you decide.
It's really come to something when, having spent a lifetime myself fighting against NATO and American wars, it's the Americans that are trying to stop the war, and Piers Morgan, Boris Johnson, and Keir Starmer who are trying to keep it going.
I don't want to keep it going.
A lot of Ukrainian,
I don't want to keep it going.
You've got a lot of Ukrainian blood on your hands. You have lied about this war from the beginning.
Actually, Vladimir,
you have lied about the origin of this war, about the duration of this war, about the course of this war, and now, having caused you and your war party the death of 1 million Ukrainians while claiming to love Ukrainians, you're now calling for British lives to be lost.
What a load of absolute bullshit.
That constitutes that.
Gentlemen, language. Yes. That's not how you handle things. Do you bloody well condemn hummus?
Constitutes close to a war crime. You're going to regret it when very soon Zelensky is sitting in a beachfront villa somewhere counting his ill-gotten gains, and all the secrets of the rampant corruption between the Democrats and the Zelensky regime begin to tumble out of the cupboard. This war did not begin 3 years ago. You very well know that it began in 2014. You very well know that it began with a coup against the elected president of Ukraine, backed by Victoria Nuland and the administration at that time, and supported by you. You very well know that the criminalization of the Russian language, which followed hard on the heels of that coup, was the proximate reason for an uprising in the east of the country amongst Russian-speaking, ethnically Russian people. You very well know that Zelensky and his predecessor rained down shot and shell on the people of East Ukraine for 8 years before Putin intervened in 2022, and that 14,000 people, most of them women and children, were killed in that onslaught. You very well know that Zelensky was preparing for a final onslaught, a final solution. And while I'm on that subject, you're always telling us how much you love the Jews. You're supporting a regime which puts up statues to Nazi collaborators, to generals of the Galician division of the SS. You are
Zelensky is Jewish, you know that, right? You know Zelensky's Jewish, right? Do you?
But that's like saying there's no racism in America because Obama.
So,
there is no racism in America. Come on, guys. What are you talking about? It's handshakes and sunshines and rainbows and dancing all around. I mean, folks, listen. Society and people will shock you. Never forget, Canada. Listen, people of Canada, we love you. We can't wait for you to become our 51st state. But I don't know why you're trying to come after the United States. After all, we are the world heavyweight champions and doing stupid things. But whoever was in charge of that parliament, you guys had a guy, an old guy, fighting against the Russians in World War II. Now, wait a minute. If I put my thinking hat on, the United States and Great Britain and the remnants of the Allied powers in Europe, we were allied with the Soviets. So if this guy was fighting the Soviets, Was he? Oh, that's right. He might have been with the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler's fantastic friends.
So you're calling the Jewish leader of Ukraine a Nazi. Is that your position?
That's like saying there's no racism in America because Obama was briefly the president of the country. The entire western part of Ukraine played a decisive role in the mass murder of Jews and Poles and others in the Second World War. And now they are heroizing the heroes of the SS. Why doesn't Donald Trump agree with you?
Because he's wrong.
Well, you know, you have been up his ass all of these 2 decades.
Really?
You've kissed his feet.
Really?
You've licked his boots. You've fought.
See, now I always would have said something like, "Hey, George, tell the world how you really feel about Piers. Do you bloody well condemn hummus?" And Benny over there is laughing. Benny, why are you laughing, huh? Be professional.
He's wrong.
Well, you know, you have been up his ass all of these 2 decades.
Really?
You've kissed his feet.
Really?
You've licked his boots. You've fawned upon him.
Really?
You have been his super fan. And now, on this fundamental question of our age, he's entirely wrong. Piers, everybody watching knows you are Trump's biggest ass.
I like him.
Everybody watching.
I like Donald Trump.
I know you like him.
I like
don't
him.
like him.
And on
you
many
like
things,
him.
on many things, I like him. And on many things,
fundamental question.
let me finish.
The biggest question in politics in the world today, he's got it completely wrong.
No, Ukraine
was the most corrupt country.
What, more corrupt than Russia? More corrupt than Russia?
It was designated by the economists,
what about Putin?
by the FT,
what about Putin?
by everyone who knows about these things. I'll tell you what, your mate, Donald Trump, is going to open every book, every drawer, every filing cabinet, and you're going to be embarrassed.
Well, now, one other thing here, too. Now, I know everyone's cheering. You want to see more. You want more. Well, don't worry. I'm going to give you more, as you should. All right? Because, of course, folks, there's just a little more of a follow-through here. So why not let's enjoy it as a family? Oh, sorry about that.
Everybody watching.
I like Donald Trump.
I know you like him.
I like him.
Don't like him.
And on many things, I like him. And on many things, let me finish.
The biggest question in politics in the world today, he's got it completely wrong.
No, you didn't hear me. Why didn't you listen to what I said?
What do you mean I didn't hear you?
I've literally said to you, on his plan to get peace, I agree with him. I don't agree with him about calling Zelensky a dictator, and I don't agree that it was Ukraine that started the war. You do, because you're Putin's little expendable.
Ukraine was the most corrupt country.
Well, more corrupt than Russia? More corrupt than Russia?
It was designated by the economists,
what about Putin?
by the FT,
what about Putin?
by everyone who knows about these things.
Tell me about Putin.
Listen, Joe
What's Vladimir Putin, George?
The Biden family's
George, what is Vladimir Putin?
Will turn out to be.
What is Vladimir Putin?
Stop parroting these things.
What is Vladimir Putin?
It is Zelensky.
Tell me about Putin.
I think we now have a new catchphrase. 2024, Piers Morgan was like, "Do you bloody well condemn hummus? Do you bloody well condemn hummus?" 2025, what about Putin? What about Putin? What about Putin, everybody? Pew, pew, Putin. What about Putin? What about Putin? Audience, what about Putin?
You can't do it, can
Joe
you?
Biden
You cannot do
Barack
it.
Obama
You will not criticize Vladimir
Kerry's
Putin.
Son or daughter, whoever they are nowadays.
You won't criticize Vladimir Putin, will you?
American oligarchs.
You won't criticize Vladimir Putin. Look at you. How pathetic.
In the corruption in Ukraine.
But no corruption in Russia.
All about it soon.
No corruption in Russia.
I'll tell you what, your mate, Donald Trump, is going to open every book, every drawer, every filing cabinet, and you're going to be embarrassed.
Okay, final question, George. Can you think of anything negative to say about Vladimir Putin or not?
Can you bloody well think of something?
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him, as I told you.
You wouldn't have voted for him. Okay.
I would have.
Okay.
I would have voted.
All right.
I would have voted for the leader of the opposition.
I got it. So you can't think of anything negative to say about the single most ruthless dictator in the world. And that says it all, George. Anyway, always a pleasure having you on Uncensored. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me just quickly go to my panel for their reaction. I mean, as you can tell, George and I didn't wholeheartedly agree with each other, although mainly because he was trying to mischaracterize my position on this. I don't have a problem with what Trump's trying to do with the peace deal.
I think he does have a problem, and he got owned in real time on his own TV, on his own show, for the whole world to see. And trust me on it. Knowing Piers Morgan, I think Piers Morgan in the back of his head is, I got gold. Now, what do you mean, Kit, by saying that Piers Morgan is saying that he's got gold? Well, because remember, when Bassem Youssef gave him that first big smackdown, it's all about the views, baby. You know, do you bloody well condemn hummus? That was his thing. I think he caught lightning in a bottle with George Galloway. Do you bloody well, again, getting smacked around, there's going to be a follow-up interview. There's going to be another follow-up showdown. That's just how it works in the show business world. But I think, folks, we could at least see it in real time. George Galloway calling Piers Morgan an arse, being so loyal to Donald Trump. But yet there's been a lot of pushback because now, remember, Piers did make a good amount of time and did a lot of research, air quotes, and time, effort, and energy into the war in Ukraine, just like how he spent time, effort, and energy into the horrific war in Gaza. But Piers couldn't really say anything because then he got emotional and kept on repeating the same line over and over again. What about Putin? 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 He had no rebuttal against anything that George Galloway was pushing against him. He had no rebuttal or any kind of counter whatsoever. If anything, Piers, you were made an arse, an ass, and you took it up the wazoo on your own show. In real time, in front of everybody. And I think we all can agree one thing. You got schooled, homie.